Comrade Bubbles. Oh, right. Shit, Comrade Bubbles. I saw you were streaming the other day. Actually, um, I gotta pop in more often. How you doing tonight? I Hey Shuvel. Hey Mormega. Welcome. I tell y'all what. I tell y'all one thing. I was talking to my friend Sal about my stream, and they were like you need to start actually um, going on stream with your shit put together well, not just this half-assed like amateur hour setup that you got going. So I gotta get better at that. You know what I mean? Hey TMKF, I am doing all right, Comrade Bubbles. I appreciate that. Fried oysters, you're in Texas. Oh shit, that's wild. I hope you're all right. If you have any mutual aid groups in your area, feel free to dump it in the chat. Hey Lanny, hey Bitch Annie, welcome y'all. Hey Socialists. All right, we got some good people in the chat tonight. We got some great people in the chat. I appreciate that, more Mega. Oh shit, Anti-Famous, it's been a minute since I seen you. Hey Kush Dog, welcome. So I appreciate you say that, more Mega, that you enjoy the show. I think I got to get it a little bit more professional. Like I gotta get a background or something. I gotta I don't know. I gotta get like chat not looking so scuffed. Because I went on Kenny's stream the other day, and Kenny's got chat overlaid on his, on his face, talking and shit. Um, hey Jamie, welcome. Hey Toadster. Um, hey Toe. Wait, Toe, do you and Bichani live together? That's nice. That's fun. Hey Pasta La Pizza. Gathering peeps to work on the gardening together to keep the seeds unspoiled in cost low. That's fantastic. Community gardens are where it's at. I wish I could join a community garden in my area. It ain't easy where I live, This hat is fucked up. I don't know what I did. I think I sat on the hat. And then I'm trying to use a mirror to fix it. There we go. That's kind of all right. Hey, Elisa, welcome. Ass stream? What do you mean ass stream? Hey, Beamer boy, welcome. Jimbo Dog, catching the beginning of the stream. That's awesome. Darth Aztec, welcome. Oh, my bootleg ass stream. Yeah, it is a little bit bootleg, isn't it? Hey, Lupe Potato, welcome. What I really want is to have it be a little like somewhere in between what it is now and what Comic-Con has. I don't know if y'all seen Comic-Con, but Comic-Con has a lot of really great stuff going in his. So yeah, I want to do that. Hey Pavlovi, I'm glad you came up and were able to see it live for once. That's great. I love Comic Con too. He's such a great guy, and I know the shit that I need to do is not that complicated. Like he's even walked me through a little bit of it in the DMs, but I just got to do it. Is the thing. I just got to do it. T Griff, you can watch him on Twitch too. My videos are saved for 2 weeks on Twitch. You don't have to watch it on YouTube necessarily, So it really ain't no big deal to watch it. I might save this on YouTube, but generally I don't save the Tuesday on YouTube because it's it's just a little bit more chaotic, a little bit looser fit. Anyway, I'm always glad to have you for a bit, T Griff, even if you can't stay for too long. Hell yeah, I got the commie super guns. Thank you for reminding me. I appreciate that. Yes, I do indeed have my super guns. Hey, Exquisitor Vorvis, welcome. Real Tyler, welcome. I'm glad you were watching the VODs earlier today. It's a lot of fun when I have somebody who watches the VODs show up and actually interacts. We have a lot of fun in the chat, as you can probably tell, because it takes me forever to actually get started. So, So yeah, I want y'all. Hey, y'all, remind me something, okay? Remind me. Yes. Remind me to. Uh, yes, Vicini, exactly. Remind me to raid somebody's stream, okay? Y'all tell me. Y'all tell me where to raid when we're done. All right. I want y'all's help with that because I never remember. So if Comic Con's on, we can raid Comic Con. If somebody else is on that y'all like, if No Yeah for sure is on, anybody who's part of our greater circle of cool comrades, you just let me know. All right, look and see who's on. Tell me, and we'll raid them. All right. Left flank vet, salamander, sweetie, any of them people, I like them, and I'm happy to raid. So we'll go on a raiding party. So yeah. $27 going for partner. That's great. I tell you what, it's hard to make partner. I think Comic Con's gonna make it. I don't know if I will. I'm around 30 to 50 viewers mostly, so we'll see. Maybe one day. Maybe I think my shit's a little bit too niche. Hey, Grim, welcome. Welcome, Grim, welcome. Kami does have a great community. What's funny is he's friends with some other streamers as well. You know what I mean? Let's see. There's another anarchist streamer, Sean. I'm trying to remember the name of their stream, but they're cool too. They're definitely cool too. So anyway, all right, 709. Let's get started. Yeah, Anarchist Laboratory Sean, exactly. Anarchist Laboratory, I like them. Comrade Bubbles is in the chat, Darth Aztec. So good. Anarcho-Druism, welcome. Okay, let's get started, shall we? So today I'm going to be talking about starting your own cadre, all right? Why you should do this, how you can do this, just some tips and tricks, nothing too serious, all right? So actually, I want to say something. If you don't have a local group that you're organizing with, I really want y'all to consider starting a little local group. Now, sometimes you can do that with a national organization, but if you live in a very rural area, or if you live in just a smaller city that done like in the South or something where there's nobody around, or if you live in a suburb of a big city, but it's like an hour away to get to a local group, a cadre can be a good option. Get a group of friends together and start doing stuff, right? You don't have to advertise. You can if you want. You don't have to grow. You can if you want, and maybe you should consider it. But in the beginning, especially, you can start doing local work in your neighborhood with a cadre and start doing right away. Okay, shit, we got Psycho Bunny Foo Foo just followed. Thank you. We got Dr. Dead Tree just followed. Thank y'all. I really appreciate it. Jimbo Dog. It doesn't require friends. Well, I'll talk about that in a second. Did not know that, Caesar. That's very interesting. Your friends are all libs that you're trying to radicalize. Well, TMKF, this could be a way to do it. You start a cadre, you start working on your friends. Maybe you don't start the cadre right away, but you start working on your friends. You start a reading group, right? And the reading group can turn into a cadre. And when Grimm says they will come to you, Grimm is not lying. Grimm has had it happen for him. Okay, Unknown Caesar, if you are a bot, I'm gonna have to bounce you. But if not, unrelated quotes in the chat. Okay, cool. We'll just keep it's a cool stick, but keep the unrelated lines in the chat to a minimum, please. So anyway, so yeah, you can do quite a bit of stuff. If you with a small group of people, and they will come. If you make if you make the decision to start your cadre, the people will come, all right? You'll start putting in the footwork. You'll say that you got something started, and all of a sudden, when you start talking to people about what you're doing, people will be interested, all right? And Grim can attest to that. Grim's in the chat right now, and I've seen it work for Grim. So yeah. Hey, unassuming Kiwi, welcome. I'm glad you're here. All right, so let's get started. So what's the cadre? All right, all this shit is just going to be my personal definition. All right. Um, so my definition is not necessarily everybody's definition. My definition may not be the correct one, right? So I'm not an expert in any of this. I'm not pretending to be the guy who's going to train everybody on how to do this. Basically, what I am is a guy who just has audacity. That's what Chase says, right? Audacity, audacity, audacity. That's the three things that the revolutionary needs. So I just have a little bit of a willingness to do stuff, and that helps me quite a bit. I don't necessarily claim to know all the time what I'm doing, and I always try to listen to other people who have been there before me, right? But hey, just another bill, thank you. But yeah, with a little bit of time, you get a little bit of experience, and I'm just sharing tonight what my experience is with y'all, right? So take it for what it's worth. Take it for the amount that you're paying for it. You know what I mean? And yeah, so a cadre to me is a small group of communists openly working in a local area, all right? So that means you're not forming a group and saying, oh, it's a different thing, like keeping the word communism out of your group's name, right? You're not being afraid to call yourself a communist. I do love the word propaganda. It's not a dirty word. I try to tell people constantly it's not a dirty word. So yeah, you want to stay in your local area, right? So it's about helping the people nearby to you. So usually a successful cadre is going to have three things: mass line work, which I'll get into what that means, but basically doing work in the community; outreach to the community, as in trying to get people involved, or propaganda, trying to get them agitated, right? And then some kind of literature study. Growing as communists, growing through action and growing through theory together, right? So yeah. One of the reasons that I don't shy away from the word propaganda is that I think it's very important for everybody to get comfortable with it. If libs are uncomfortable with it, part of that is their programming, right? They believe that they are not propagandized to constantly, right? They believe that they are not capable of propaganda. Only big evil governments are capable of propaganda. That is wrong, right? So, alrighty. Exactly, Exquisitor Vorbis. Everything is nah, don't ban. Just time them out for a bit. It's all right to be a chatty Cathy. Hey, Tempest Librarian, how you doing? Thanks, Grim. So, propaganda, right, is something we all have to take part in. And with communists, the propaganda we do is propagandizing with the truth, right? We don't tell lies because we can't afford to go on large campaigns to make people believe that lies are the truth, right? Sounds good, Tempest. Hey, Dick, you welcome. So yeah, I repeat that every time because I do think it's important, all right? So let's continue. Now, why do I say literature study is important? Part of this, right? Pasta la pizza. I think a literature study is an important part of this for two reasons. One, a lot of people have not done a lot of reading, right? For a lot of people, the first time that they come in contact with communist texts is oftentimes through a friend. It certainly ain't through school, right? So your literature study may be the first exposure someone has to a lot of these ideas, and that's very valuable. So if you have read State and Revolution and your friends haven't, then you could help walk them through it a little bit, and it's going to be easier for you the second time you do it. So having the literature study keeps you grounded, right? The literature study will help you to have something to come back to, especially in weeks where the mass line aspect maybe wasn't so exciting, wasn't so great. You'll always have this literature study to go back to. And also, it helps ground the tendency of the group as well. I believe that pan-leftist groups run into a lot of issues. And so you can either have two things. You can either have a pan-leftist group where everyone is extremely respectful, and that is difficult to have, or you can have a group that more or less follows one tendency. And if somebody is outside of the tendency, they may be welcome, but the group is of one tendency, right? And the benefit to that is that you can really dial down the kind of things you want to read. You can really hang out and talk about things openly without trying to hedge around stuff. I will not be doing this stream as Rose Gomer. Rose Gomer is dead. Rose Gomer is gone. I'm sorry. He's gone. Yeah, exactly, Elijah. Exactly. Getting together and discussing is worthwhile. You learn things from each other that you couldn't learn apart, and things can be easier when done together as a group, especially for non-readers. You know what I mean? Femboy Ancon, welcome. So, so let me see. T. Griff had a big, something big here. So sometimes you can have difficulty discussing ideas and ideals with your roommates and your folks. If communism peaks over the horizon, they shut down and revert to some variation of capitalism, and free market are still just the best system. And you know what? That's all right. You know, they may not be ready. Material conditions drive things. You know what I mean? And that's a big part of what I do, is try to speak simply, softly, respectfully to other people, so that I can reach them where they're at. You know what I mean? Exquisitor Vorvis, that sounds fun, but I don't want to hurt my friends. Get the shears. So yeah. I personally think that people are radicalizable, and many people are going to be more radicalizable than you think. Although I'm not telling you that everybody is, for sure, because your experience, Grim, stop. Your experience is valid, right? If you actually tell people, "Hey, I'm a communist," and they slap you in the face, well, that's real, right? But I think. I think you may be surprised if you talk to people. And one thing that happens, I have told people that I'm a communist, and they haven't said that they're a communist, but it has started to normalize the idea. So maybe the first time they hear it, they're shocked and scared. But after a while, when they see that you're not a wild person, that in fact you have become a communist because you care so much, you love the people and you want to see them thrive, and you simply know, after so many experiences and reading so much history, you know the true nature of the government, then yeah, there's no real other option besides being a communist. Now, if your theory isn't so heavy, if you're still working on learning theory, that can be a challenge as well. So a Gomer by another game, still a Gomer. Yeah, exactly, Bubbles, exactly. I totally agree with you. Being afraid to call ourselves communists is what the imperialists want. I was talking to Comrade Dr. Baer today about that. I hopped on the phone, talked to him for a bit. The idea that simply saying that you are a communist in public right now is a form of praxis because of how little it is done, right? Going out and, like, it's really low level shit, right? In the old days, when people did praxis, they had to do some a lot more intense stuff. But nowadays, simply coming out to your friends and family can be a part of your praxis today, because so many people ain't doing it. It's such a scary thing to do. Or something, it's really something that we have been trained to think of as a scary thing to do, but actually it's a very normal thing to do, right? And people who talk about not mixing, business and politics, or friendship and politics, right? Those people are libs. We have to be real about who we are. And communism is not simply an economic theory. It's not simply a government style. It is a fundamental part of who we are because it is a total rejection of the way of modern governance. Yeah, y'all, come out of the closet. Come on out. Come out wherever you are. Yeah, exactly, Darth Aztec. In the old days, some people got locked up for being commies. And right now, you can say you're a commie without getting locked up for it. Might change, but who knows what's going to happen in the future? Who knows what's going to happen? Exactly, Exquisitive Orbis. Everything is political. Blend your beliefs on organization of the community with the community? Yeah, exactly, Pasta La Pizza. Fundamentally, this is about organizing the community. So it is important to actually talk to the community. And we're going to get to that in a second because that's a very important point. You're out. What you mean you're out, Elisa? Yep. Trending Now Network. Welcome. This shit's falling off. Hopefully it don't fall off too far. All right, so let's keep going. So why not join a bigger org? A lot of people say join a communist org, right? They say join a party, join PSL, join CPUSA, join PCUSA, join FTP, right? There's a lot of different parties, and I'm sure people in the chat have opinions about every single one of them. But sometimes you can't just join the party that you want to join, right? Like sometimes you have like a process for joining, and sometimes you fail the process. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean you're not a communist. But for example, I had a friend who had a difference of opinion on how gangs are revolutionary or not, right? So my friend thought that gangs are not really revolutionary. The org he was trying to get into said that gangs had revolutionary potential, and just that small thing was enough to make it to where he couldn't join the org. Now, does that mean that that they can't be a communist? No, of course they're still a communist, right? So they are in a better position to start a cadre, straight up. Easy Modes, thank you for following. I appreciate that. Tempest, your siblings know you're radical and your parents kind of know. Dad doesn't really know. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, my mom knows. I talk to my mom about communism all the time, but you know, my dad just, he can't really understand it. I mean, I've come out as bisexual to my dad a couple times. There's a lot of things that I've told my dad over the years that he just kind of forgets conveniently. So yeah, what are you gonna do? Yeah, Elijah, that's another thing. Sometimes you try to join an org, and they've got a big glut of people trying to join the org, and so you don't get in for months and months, but you want to start some shit now, right? So you can do both. You can be trying to join the org while you have started your cadre. It is okay. Yeah, I hear you, Tempest. Yeah, Darth Aztec. I mean, you know, you sometimes say it's a phrase, or more than often he'd say, you know, it's against God or whatever. You know what I mean? Parents are, it's like Will Smith said, ain't no reason to argue with him. Parents just don't understand. Lanny says your dad don't even believe in climate change. That's rough, yep. Trending Now, talking about Michael Parenti. I totally agree. And I have a list of recommended works that I'm going to get to in a bit here. But yeah, Michael Parenti's Black Shirts and Reds especially is a fantastic book. Yeah, T. Griff, do the hat trick. Yeah, Jamie, exactly. So yeah. So no orgs nearby, or you don't want to join the orgs, right? Another reason is you want to focus on a tendency, right? You want to focus, like you want to start a Marxist-Leninist organization, right? And only orgs nearby you are stuff like DSA, SRA, whatever, pan-leftist orgs, right? It's okay to want to start a more dedicated tendency organization. Or let's say you want to start an org that has a different activity than the orgs that are nearby, right? Let's say you want to do protest work. You want to start a dedicated book club. You want to start doing propaganda around town, wheat pasting, right? You can't have a DSA clique that is dedicated to wheat pasting around town. So you need to start a little cadre. And then, yeah, anything extra legal like that, from the very extra legal to the not so very extra legal, you can't do with a regular org ever, right? I mean, maybe some orgs have some kind of special ops shit that nobody knows about, but I don't think they do. I think basically every org out there right now is terrified of being shut down, so they have no extra legal aspects to their structure. So you need a cadre if you want to do anything like that. So you also, maybe you want to have a small group that trust each other, right? Maybe you already have one. You have a friend group, right? Cadre of dreams. So yeah, I think starting with a clique that you know, especially if you got a little clique that you know, can be a really good thing. Like you can either join an org and then all of y'all join the same org, and then you have your little power group within whatever group that you join in the org, and that's kind of shitty, to be honest. Or you can start your own little thing. You know what I mean? It's better, in my opinion. It's better. So those are all the reasons you could start a cadre instead of jumping into a national org. Doesn't mean you can't jump into a national org. You can do both, but yeah, just consider it. Organized Catholic priest, the Padre Cadre. What the fuck? Yes, Darth Aztec, exactly. Local protests. I think that there's plenty of people who have wanted to do like aid work at local protests, such as like doing medic work or passing out food and water and such, doing comms work, so riding around on bicycles with like earpieces and communicating, right? And really, I feel like communists should have been out there, and because I saw PSL out there a little bit, but I think if there were more communists during the George Floyd protests last summer when they were really big, open out communists, right? It would have been better, my opinion. If we were supporting, and we were obviously there to support, it would have been better. Yes, exactly, Elijah. George Jackson makes the point that you need both the legal and the extra legal. I talk about that all the time. And in fact, look what I got sitting right next to me. I got this shit sitting right next to me. George Jackson made a lot of really good points in Blood in My Eye, and I highly recommend you read it if you haven't read it before. All right, Darth Aztec, good night. So Fred Hampton's speech, you can murder liberation, but you can't murder liberation. Interesting. I'll check that out. So yeah, cadres are good for a lot of reasons like that. You like this Nerf? Well, guess what? I got two. Pew pew. Continuing. All right. So I mentioned the mass line, right? Hey, so welcome. The reason I specifically mentioned the mass line is because the mass line has been a part of communist work for a very long time. As in, it was synthesized by Mao into writing, but it was done at the time of Marx, 1861. They were doing mass line work in a lot of ways. All right, so I'm gonna break y'all down the basics of the mass line. I figured that's what you meant, Trending Now Network. So yeah, let me just walk y'all through what I think the mass line is about. First of all, before anything, the standpoint that you should come from is that you trust the masses. A lot of people are very afraid of talking to the masses. They're afraid of talking to people. They're afraid of talking politics to people, right? They're afraid to death of spending 20 minutes in a conversation about communism with people, right? And that's because they feel like people aren't ready for it. They feel like people can't understand it. You need a theory background, whatever, right? But I got to tell y'all, come from a place of trusting the masses. Absolutely, Lupe Potato, it is social anxiety. But another part of it is it can be a form of elitism, right? And we all have to look at the chauvinism within ourselves. I am guilty of this too. I ain't calling anybody out here but myself, all right? Hey, Comrade Clever Name, welcome. So one thing is, some people, and not you, Lupe, but some people, when they talk to regular people in their neighborhood, especially when they talk to the unhoused people, when they talk to the poor people in the neighborhood that they want to help, they have this like helper helpee type construct in their head, right? So they're not really trying to hear the opinions and thoughts of the people. That is not mass line. You can't just run up and hand somebody a pie and say, all right, I've done mass line work. This is the mutual aid. Here's food. I'm out. Peace. It is paternalistic. Exactly, Grim. That's what I'm saying. Hey, Nyla Creates, you didn't miss much. I'm just talking, just talking bullshit, so you're all right. Yes, Grim, exactly. It's paternalistic. You are not canceled, Lupe. In fact, you are anti-canceled. What is the opposite of canceled? You are subscribed. So yeah, basically, you are promoted. Yes, basically, if you're dealing with social anxiety, going out with a clique and talking to several people at once is good. Don't mob people, right? Don't have like 4 or 5 commies running up on one unhoused person and talking to them. That's not good. But talking to people means talking. Spending some time, and I think that's really important. So yeah, exactly, Tempest. It doesn't just mean meeting the needs of the poor, but also unionizing the poor. Absolutely, but also everybody, right? So we're talking about the poor. We're talking about students. There are people who are historically more radicalizable than others, right? So white middle class people who own their own homes, if they ain't losing their homes, if they've been okay during this whole process, then they are not very radicalizable. But for your minorities who have been oppressed by the police, they are radicalizable much easier, mostly because they understand the true nature of America in ways that middle class white homeowner never could, right? Because the middle class white homeowner, it is vital to their existence that they not actually understand the true nature of the United States. So anyway, yes, Grim, exactly. George Jackson talks about this. So real quick, can somebody fill in Nyla Creates on what we talked about so far? If anybody remembers, just type it in the chat a little bit. So anyway, starting from a place of trusting the masses, we learn what is needed in the community by asking them. All right? So you go out, you talk to them, like I said, right? You ask many different people, and then you synthesize. You gather all this information up between you and your comrades, and you synthesize it to figure out what's actually a problem in the neighborhood. Because you live in the neighborhood and you are operating in your neighborhood, you may already have an idea of what's going on in your neighborhood, right? So in my neighborhood, people are losing their house like crazy. So I'm part of like eviction defense groups, anti-sweep groups to stop the police from sweeping people, unhoused people off the streets, and some and with the group that does aid work, right? Just giving people, food, clothes, medical supplies, and the like. Help them get through these tough times while they're unhoused. So that's the mass line work that I've done, and part of that was simply observing what's going on in the neighborhood. Then we enforce the needs being met, but we don't command. So what does that mean? When you're doing mass line work, you're not going to go out and just tell the people in the neighborhood, this is what's happening now, right? If you have, for example, so many people focus on the unhoused right now because a lot of people are being unhoused right now, but there are a lot of other people who need help, right? Like there are people who need food, regular people who need food. So food drives can be very good, right? Griff, who are you Griff, who are you talking to? I don't know who runs the YLF account. So yeah, you can't command, but you can lead, right? So you don't have to tail, you don't have to wait around and just do everything that the community says and don't think for yourself at all. You have to synthesize their needs and figure out what their needs really are without being egotistical and arrogant and assuming what their needs are and being paternalistic about it. You have to walk that line to really listen, but figure it out. Use your brain. But yeah, you also afterwards cannot command, right? So after you have started to enforce the needs being met in the community, you empower the members of the community to join you in meeting those needs. Because you're mine, I walk the mass line. You want to empower people to meet their own needs, right? The whole point is getting solidarity, right? And when we say solidarity, we mean solidarity, right? We mean actually having people who are willing to fight for each other, people who are willing to work for each other, right? People who are willing to do things for people in the neighborhood that they don't know. So that is empowerment to get other people on your team, doing things with you. So what am I saying here? I'm saying this group can't stay a small little group that never grows and that never includes any other people and doesn't spin off into other groups or grow into a wider circle that's doing more work, right? The point is, as you continue to do things in the community, people figure out that you're really doing stuff and they want to join you. They are excited to join, right? They have a burning in their heart because for the first time maybe they are feeling like they can actually do something. Helplessness is endemic in America, right? Everybody feels helpless at some point or another because it's trained into us. So the mass line is a part of getting that dignity, that feeling that they can do something, uplifted, and getting that helplessness pushed away, right? This is a guide for dual power, Elijah, absolutely. So, Grim, when you talk about extra legal stuff, when you talk about vanguardism, right? Certainly, the cadre can have a role as far as like you can have just a tight little group doing that work and then a different group doing other work, right? So, for example, let's say that the community issue is um, is police that are brutalizing people, right? Or let's say the community issue is some kind of um, somebody going around hurting people. Well, then maybe what you have to do is a little bit different than what you would have to do if you were in a situation where you're just passing out food to the unhoused, right? There can be levels to this shit. That's okay. Hey, Comrade Kenny's here. Everybody, y'all follow Comrade Kenny. If I had that Nightbot shit set up, I would say follow Comrade Kenny's channel. But Kenny, please drop your link in the chat because I suck at Twitch, and everybody knows it. Liberalism teaches people learned helplessness. It is why when we talk to people about their own power, it's one of the hardest things to convince them of. Yes, exactly. And you know what? That's straight out of pedagogy of the oppressed. That's the fundamental concept, I feel like, from pedagogy of the oppressed, is that a lot of times people are terrified of gaining their own agency. People are scared shitless of the idea that they have lived their life feeling like they have no power, but actually having had power the entire time. Also, they're afraid of the responsibility that comes with power. Right? It's terrifying to think that now that you know that you can do something, it's a choice after that to not do something, right? So yeah, there's huge resistance for people learning that they have power, but a big part of the mass line is that empowerment, right? So people may be resistant in some ways, people may not be interested in some ways, but a lot of times what happens is they ain't interested one day, but with time, when they see that you continually put in the work, when they see you really sticking with it and doing things in the community, they'll come around, right? They might have that spark of hope. So really, it is important. It is important to do even when you feel like it's not going anywhere. You have to be constantly reevaluating. A big part of the mass line is reevaluation. But that doesn't mean that you stop just because you get bad results. You tweak things, right? You think about things. You never get stuck and you never get disheartened. You're continually trying stuff. So this is very similar to what I was talking about in my propaganda series, where we can't get married to any one idea, right? The mass line oftentimes has it requires to be changing things, because the biggest problem in the neighborhood changes from time to time, right? Maybe sometimes it's police brutality, and maybe sometimes it's hunger. So you got to be figuring that stuff out and doing the best that you can do. That doesn't mean you can solve all problems, right? But you can, yeah, you can do your best, and you can have actionable, realizable goals. That's important too. We'll get to that later. Yeah, I agree, Grim. A living document, a guiding document, is very important and helpful for a cadre. Don't get caught up in always writing the document, as in like changing your guiding principles and stuff constantly. But definitely having a guiding document is very good. But yeah, Tempest, I agree. You got to have your eye on the prize with the goal. Whatever it is, you have to be trying to enforce it and bringing people in to empower them to help enforcement in the future. Get those W's. That's right. Okay, so let's talk about vetting a little bit. What is vetting? Well, when you're trying to bring new people into the group, right? Even if it is starting out with a group of friends that you think you've known for a long time, you want to do a certain amount of vetting. You want to ask the pertinent questions, ask the important questions about them, their politics, their values, and you have to figure out what's important to the group once the initial group is formed, right? So let me give you a couple little examples of like things that are important to the group. These are just things that are like good matches, right? So we're not talking about like keeping FBI out or chuds out or whatever. We're talking about if someone who called themselves a communist and was a communist came out and was hanging out with you, these are the things that could potentially figure out if they were a good fit or a bad fit, right? So are they politically cohesive? One of my friends has this thing where there's an anarchist in his book club, and most of the other people are Marxist-Leninists, and so there's this conflict going on because, I mean, personally, I think it's because the people who are fighting are undisciplined, right? You can be a disciplined Marxist, you can be a disciplined anarchist. So I ain't shitting on anarchists here. I'm saying that anybody having this fight in a group that was pan-leftist from the beginning is undisciplined. But if it's going to be a problem, then political cohesiveness may be something that the group needed to think of ahead of time, right? So it's not necessary. These are just potential things to think about, right? Political development, right? I personally think that political development should be important to every group. You should be learning, you should be reading theory, you should be discussing theory with each other, you should be applying theory to the work that you do, and constantly changing up the work that you do as you learn more from theory, right? That's political development. Just reading shit by itself and not ever doing anything and not talking to people, that is weak political development. That's milk. The real meat is the constant cycle of application and reading more theory. So, intersectional awareness. There's a lot of white people out there. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but there's a lot of white people out there. So sometimes, if you have a group that is very, very, very white, and especially if it's a bunch of white dudes who maybe haven't suffered too much or who are not very aware of the way other people live, the problems that other people face, it may be troublesome. It's true, Grim. It's true. I ain't a conspiracy theorist. I'm telling you the truth. So yeah, you have to figure out, especially like let's say you are a group of non-white folks and you're trying to figure out who you want to let into your group. It's okay to determine the degree of intersectional awareness that is necessary for you to let somebody into your group. So something to think about from the get-go. All right, willingness to work and the type of work they like to do. So some people don't like to do all kinds of work. Some people like to do a very small niche of work, right? And if your little cadre is about something totally different, you could take the easy way out and say, yeah, sure, join our group and we'll do your work and you can do our work. Or you can be a little bit more principled about it and say, if you are only interested in doing this particular amount of work, then it might not be a good fit, right? And you ain't got to end a friendship over it, but you're trying to figure out how to do work the best in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? You're really trying to figure out how to help people. So if the person that you're thinking about taking in doesn't like to help people the way that you like to help people, how's that going to work? It's not going to work. Straight up. Tempest saying you get more connected to audiobooks and visual examples, and that's fine too. I think that reading together, as in like one person reads and the other person listens and then talks a little bit, can be really good too. I do a lot of listening to podcasts, and the podcasts do help me, but I find that when I explain theory to other people, when I talk it out with people on Twitter or with my friends on the phone, those kind of give and take type activities, I really learn a lot more. Just my feeling. Now, finally, we got a vibe check. So the vibe check is very important. If you don't care about vibes, you're gonna run into trouble, because some people got weird vibes, and the vibes oftentimes are telling if somebody's a good fit or not. Yeah, we doing with the vibe check. Hey, Jamie, not necessarily. You can read together or you can read separately and then come together to discuss. Personally, I think reading separately and then coming together to discuss is probably stronger, to be honest. Sosa Guitar, Red Menace, yes. Revolutionary Left, that is also by Brett, is also good. There's a bunch of left-leaning podcasts out there. I mean, there's like, I think capitalists or millennials are killing capitalism. That's a good one. There's a, and that's okay too, Tempest, as far as like missing the vibes and stuff. Because one thing that is good, I think actually having somebody, having an autistic person come along can be good, because if someone who comes is kind of a jerk to the autistic person because of like maybe drop social cues or whatever, they're a bad fit for the group. You know what I mean? So the feeling that you get after you leave somebody, whether it's good or bad, is still valuable. It's still valid. You know what I mean? And maybe other people need to get like, they'll look out for other things, but that's the point of vetting, is that you have a good intersection of people. You have several people there. You know what I mean? So yeah, continuing. Background and history. So some people don't want to work with the military, like ex-military. Some people don't want to work with people who are rich, right? There's a lot of people who maybe are problematic to work with in a group. And I certainly have had trouble in groups where somebody who was very rich ended up acting kind of entitled. So yeah, those kind of things can matter. It's okay to turn someone away for being of a different class if you don't get a very good class consciousness vibe from them. This nonviolent stuff will get us killed by Charles Cow Jr. I haven't read that one. You have to anarcho-druidism. You have to tell me how it is. You have to let me know what you think about it. So, some other basic vetting ideas. You want to determine the trust level that you are going to give somebody after they've been vetted. All right. So how in the group is somebody once they've been vetted? Hey, Fatal Melted Wind, welcome. You're really only keeping out some seemingly innocent threats, like you may be keeping out some sex pests. You may be keeping out like some people who are not really committed, or who just have a little bit bad politics, right? And you'll keep out the dumb chuds, but if an FBI person really wants to get into your group, they probably will find a way. Also, it's pretty easy to get into your phone nowadays anyway, so even if you got Signal or whatever. So there's always security risks. So it's important to say just how much the group trusts somebody after the first amount of vetting. And what's the strategy, right? Is it a one-time thing? Are there several levels? Like, do they have to get vetted once and then people talk and then you vet them again with a different group and then those people talk? Or is it something where they have like a system like motorcycle gangs have, where it's like you have hang-arounds, right? Um, that's right, pasta pizza. Or maybe it's super invasive, right? Maybe you actually like get into their phone, like you surprise them and say, "Give me your phone. Let me see what's on your phone," or something like that, right? Um, or maybe there's some kind of training or action, right? Maybe there's a certain amount of needing to have them read books first or do certain actions first before they can be considered. There's a lot of different ways to do vetting, right? I think that the questionnaire aspect is important, but besides the questionnaire, there's a lot of different things to do. A lot of different things to do. So you want to always ask open-ended questions, right? I've talked about vetting a little bit on this stream before, but I think it bears repeating that that yes or no questions are not good. They're too easy. You want to have people giving a little bit of themselves to you whenever you're doing the vetting process, right? So you want to ask questions like, what do you think about XYZ, right? Yeah, this is a recruitment ritual for sure, for sure. Like I said before, you want to include a diverse group, right? A couple things that I've learned, all right? Watch out for everybody treats me bad type stories, especially from people who seem very nice and friendly. If you got someone who is very friendly but somehow has no friends, like if you like them a lot but somehow they're like everybody's fucked them over their whole lives, maybe they have lived a life where everybody has fucked them over constantly. It's possible. But it sets off alarm bells in my head because the number of times that I've met somebody who is like, they're always saying they've been fucked over, but actually they got a personality problem going on, right? So just be careful, right? It's not for me, it's not a deal breaker, but it is something to watch, right? Because you may figure out it's something that's okay, or it's something that is a big problem in the group, right? So you want to have a way, if someone is a difficult person in the group, you also want to have a way to get them out that is not that troublesome, right? So one final idea: let them simmer. Take your time, right? With any of this shit, right? Tell them, hey, I'm gonna meet you one day, and then say, oh, you know what? Actually, let me change that to another day, or talk to them and then let them sit for a few days before you get back to them. Maybe let them sit for a full week before you get back to them, because if somebody um, if somebody can't handle being left on the hook for a few days, they're gonna cause problems later. Straight up. Anybody who has not got the maturity to just chill and wait for somebody to get back to them. If it's been a couple weeks or something, like who knows? But like it might be okay. Like if y'all just forgot to get back to somebody, but it's good to have some simmering involved. There have been several times when I've been vetting somebody in a group and like we don't get back to them for a few days and they're like, "Fine, fuck you. I thought y'all were cool, but you're not cool." It's like, okay, well, we have dodged a bullet there. Yeah, Laney, exactly. Exactly. Some people really do get treated bad their whole life. But other people, they're toxic as fuck. It's true. Very true. TMKF, that's funny. Yeah, sometimes you got to schedule stuff, you got to write stuff on your calendar, you know what I mean? Um, but anyway, continuing. So what to read? What do y'all? There's a lot of things that were even talked about in chat. I meant to write down Parenti in the first line, but I forgot to write them down. Yes, having some follow through is very good, Kush Dog. I totally agree. You do want to have somebody who will follow up potentially as well, but the way in which they follow up matters, right? You can have it be a part of your program that you let people kind of sit on the hook and wait for them to contact you again. It's not a terrible thing to do if you're really focused on getting go-getters into your group. But yeah, also having people who can show up on time, having people who you can give a time and date far in the future to, and they'll still actually show up. That's really good. That's good shit. So, things you should read. I think you should read Engels. There's like the Communist Manifesto with Marx and Engels, Principles of Communism, very easy first books. With Mao, there's a lot of easy first books. The quotations of Chairman Mao are good. The Combating Liberalism text and some of his other essays are really good. And then a lot of the former Black Panthers, like Huey P. Newton, Angela Davis, they wrote books that are so accessible, so interesting, and so applicable to modern American life that I personally feel like every communist needs to read, not just from one or two Black Panthers, but it really needs to sit and study the movement and the people within the movement. Yeah, exactly, Shoebell. Huey P. Newton and Angela Davis have some good shit. And Shoebell, if you like them, then I do really think you will like Blood in My Eye, because George Jackson was also kind of affiliated with the Black Panthers. They're just the closest thing we've ever had to an actual revolutionary movement in modern America. So they address racial issues in ways that Marx just wasn't conceiving of. So really, I think they're good to go. They are really important to read. Yeah, Jamie, totally agree. Listening to the audiobook or reading, and then listening to the podcast, explain it, and then going back and reading again or something, right? The way you approach theory is whatever works for you, for sure. And with your cadre that you're starting, y'all can figure out what works best for y'all, Exactly, Jamie. Finding the way that works best is really important. So after you've read just a little bit of this introductory text type stuff, then jumping on up to Lenin or Fanon is very sensible, and in fact, I think necessary. So you want to continue reading with your clique, right? Reading Parenti is really good and important. You should try to tackle Lenin or Fanon afterwards, right? Some of these are a little bit more complicated, so this is where your cadre can help, because they can help you by explaining different difficult words or different concepts that like you didn't look up, so you didn't know what they was really talking about, right? Yeah, we're really implying trial and error, exactly. All right, Baby Dolly Cutie is in the chat. Hello. So one thing that I'm really going to make clear here that I think is very important, yeah, Grim, make sure nobody is dominating the reading group, all right? This happens all the time, and I'm going to talk about de facto leaders in the group in a bit, because I do think it really bears discussion, talking about de facto leaders. But you've got to make sure that no one is dominating the reading group. People like me like to talk, right? I have to be very careful to not talk too much, especially if I'm in a group where other people have not read something and I have read something. Hey, Geo Poor Bun Spar. I have no idea. I'm going to call you Geo. Nice to have you. So for people like me, I have to be conscientious. I have to think about it. I have to focus and say, okay, even if I have something to say right here, do I really need to say it? I have to hold back, because it ain't right. For me to dominate the conversation so much ain't right. I have to be willing to take a little bit of a back seat. In fact, I should consider myself as having a permanent back seat and to be listening to other people. Now, for y'all, TMKF and Geo, who are very avid listeners and not great talkers, it is important for you to do the opposite of what I'm talking about, right? It's important for you to, even if you don't feel like you have a great, important, earth-shattering thing to say, to occasionally pipe up and just kind of talk about what you're thinking of, right? So it is important for everybody to be taking part. You don't have to be dominating the conversation. You don't even have to be a full-on like taking your slice of the pie, I guess I could say. Like, you don't have to be contributing the exact amount that you would be given if a pie was split up evenly among the group, right? But you want to be contributing a bit. And I think one way to do that is to kind of go around the circle and allow people to pass if they don't want to say anything, not put people on the spot, but or for the group leader to kind of pick out different people and say, what do y'all think? Geo, Principles of Communism, is a fantastically easy read. It's easier than the Communist Manifesto. In fact, I would personally say that it is a better first stop than the Communist Manifesto. You never read any leftist books? Well, that's great. Then you may enjoy Principles of Communism. Very simple. So, continuing. Some common problems in a cadre. All right. Cadre is a group like any others. You know what I mean? Well, I'll tell you what, Gio. You say you're high school educated. I've been to a lot of school, and I never was recommended any communist literature while I was in school. They say schools are hotbeds of Marxism. They ain't. They ain't. Pasta la pizza. I agree that that Mao is very important. All right, and I think that you can start off with Mao. Absolutely, combat liberalism is a great start. The Little Red Book, although it is not exactly linear, can be a great place to start as well if you're just kind of looking up different ideas. Right on, Grim. I'm glad to hear that. Do you have a book that you'd recommend, Pasta, for like a first-time Maoist article or book? So you have a goal, Tempest. You say your goal is getting members of the church into communism and getting it allied with other groups. That's fantastic. Anybody who comes to my stream enough will know that I have a very big, what's a nice word to say here? I have a very big burden on my heart to empower people to talk to their church groups about communism, to be very frank and open and bring communism back into the church. Radical liberation theology is something that we should respect. It's something that we should hang on to. It's something that we should promote because people are Christian in this country. I mean, there are many other religions as well, don't get me wrong, but there's quite a few Christians. So we need to bring liberation theology back to the forefront. Being open about our own communism is part of it. I ain't a Christian either, Fatal, but I respect people who are ready to talk liberation theology. Absolutely. Hey, Anarchist Laboratory Sean, I was talking about you earlier. I was saying people should follow your show. Your favorite sociology teacher was liberation theologist. That's awesome. So here are some other common problems. All right. Inertia. A lot of people are afraid of getting started. They have this they don't have confidence about the cadre idea. They don't have confidence in their own ability to do stuff. So, you got to overcome that. It's very important to overcome that. You just got to push through. And the key to pushing through is to start doing. Just do it. Set a day of the week that you're going to do something. You're going to get together and you're going to do X, Y, Z, right? Maybe you're going to go plan how to do a food drive. Maybe you're going to talk about how you're going to do your mass line work. Maybe you're going to just have your once a week literature meeting and then you're going to do other stuff, right? But make sure that you have planned things to do. Constantly be doing shit, right? So hold on, let's see. Sosa Guitar, are there any anarchist texts worth reading just to get an idea of the opposite views? I mean, there's tons of anarchist texts that you can read. I like mutual aid. It's not opposite. It's, in fact, I consider quite a bit of all communism to be useful to each other, right? Marxist-Leninists can learn from anarchists. Anarchists can learn from Marxist-Leninists. So there aren't really sides. But if you're talking like just trying to figure out things about different tendencies, I ain't trying to like tell you you're wrong or anything. I'm just saying like if you're considering it just like learning about several different tendencies, then I mean, a lot of people say Conquest of Bread by Kropotkin, but I think that book is boring as fuck. I'm just telling you. I think it's boring. Other people like it. Other people can read it. Go for it. I'm a big reader and I found it boring. I'm sorry to say. Um, I think Kropotkin's Mutual Aid is very good. Um, Good night, socialist. Thank you for coming by. I'm always glad to see you. So yeah, I think Bonanno's Armed Joy I like a lot. Tolstoy's are good. Right on. There you go. Um, Bakunin has some stuff. I don't know. It's like personally, I haven't read the anarchist text that is as like straightforward as a lot of the communist text because that's not really the point, right? Somebody was telling me the other day that the complete works of Zapata was pretty good, like the Zapatistas guy. So yeah, if any anarchists on the stream have some recommendations for some fundamental texts, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. Hey, Lost in Nowhere, welcome. Good night, TMKF. Well, it was good having you. So, continuing on here, some other common problems: the inability to make decisions. You kind of want to have somebody in the group to be a decider. All right, you want to have somebody. It doesn't have to always be the same person, but yeah, some kind of decider is really good. Damn. Okay, we got a we got a couple good ones over here. Malatesta's Anarchy is a good starting point. Kropotkin is kind of dry, but David Graeber does a good job updating his understanding of anarchism to be more digestible. The Way We Have Always Done by Leanne Simpson is a good indigenous perspective. Okay, shit, I'll have to read that one. I'm interested in that. Oh shit, thank you, Kenny. Thank you so much for putting a tweet in with the mutual aid for Texans in there. I donated a little bit earlier, but I'm really glad to have something in the chat right now. We got to help y'all. This is one of them times. I mean, several different places are really struggling, but Texas right now is like because they have no government follow through on helping them out, especially in the marginalized communities in Texas. There are certain cities where it's like the rolling blackouts that they have planned, especially like Austin, right, is affecting the marginalized groups, marginalized parts of town. It's the new redlining, you know what I'm saying? So like we have to consider this to be a form of classicide, of ethnocide even. We have to be very careful about how we see this as just a planned rolling blackout, right? Because some of this shit is seeming very what's the word I'm looking for? Sinister. Honestly, it seems very sinister. Yeah, exactly, Lanny. Exactly. Y'all hold on just a second. All right, so you got to worry about unprincipled or de facto leadership. All right, so if you have somebody who is just taking control of the group and is not actually the leader of the group, but is making the decisions and is planning everything or is handling the money, handling the communication, right? That's de facto leadership. We need to be aware of that. Holy shit, people out there with negative 20 degrees, that's wild. That's wild, man. Another common problem is biting off too much on the mass line, trying to do more than you really can do. So I think it's very important to stay right-sized, right? Tackle something in your neighborhood. Tackle something that you can help out with. Maybe it's the primary thing that is causing problems in the neighborhood, or maybe it's something else. But like, even if it's a smaller problem, but it's something that you can do, stick with it. That's good to do. Damn, fatal melted wind. You got people in prison in Colorado with no heat? God in heaven. I'll tell you what, people always think of Colorado as this like wonderful, like enlightened place, but I tell you, there's some bullshit out there. Like the way the cops treat people, especially in minority neighborhoods, and the just the prison culture in Colorado, the way people are treated, it's fucked up, man. Yeah, it's cold. It gets cold as fuck in Colorado. I mean, it snows for a few months of the year up there sometimes, depending on where you are. So, anyway, money issues. All right, let's talk. Let's be real about something for a second. All right. So, if we're talking money issues, absolutely, Lanny, absolutely. Some people are struggling right now. Some people who want to help others are struggling right now, right? So the thing is, if your mutual aid fund ends up, like if you start a GoFundMe and it gets a certain amount of money, like if it gets $1,000 and you got somebody in your group that is struggling, then you can't blame them all the time if they feel a temptation to run off with the money. It happens. It's happened in 2 groups that I've been a part. 3, honestly, at this point 3, because the other group, yeah. Anyway, so it was oftentimes people who were really well-meaning, but they started reimbursing themselves for things like gas and time, and or they made big purchases without consulting the group, things like that. So money issues are very common, right? And the thing is, people have a really hard time admitting to themselves when they are struggling, and you know they don't want to. People don't always want to admit when they're struggling, but a big part of this whole process is being honest with yourself and your people, right? You got to be honest with your cadre. Who else can you be honest with if you can't be honest with your cadre, right? So yeah, we are all struggling. I agree. But you also have to know your own strengths and weaknesses, and you have to be honest. Some people are struggling more than others, right? And if somebody is struggling particular hard, then they maybe shouldn't be the ones handling the money. So we like sometimes we tend to get idealist about this shit, and I just have to tell y'all that like the person with experience handling money, or the person who is a little bit like stable in some ways, sometimes will have less temptation to steal the money, right? And the more honest we can be about this kind of thing, the better off we'll be. Because I have had the money stolen in 2 groups by people that I trusted, and it's not uncommon, right? To have GoFundMe's misappropriated. We don't need to judge. We don't need to be angry, but to prepare for that is prudent, right? To consider these issues in advance is prudent. If you have somebody who's very arrogant in your group, or you have somebody who doesn't ever want to hear anything and doesn't want to talk about this kind of stuff, well, Mao would say that is a type of liberalism. To be unwilling to take criticism, to be unwilling to discuss problems out in the open with your cadre, is a type of liberalism. And Gio, I struggle with mental health myself, right? It's very normal. I think pretty much all of us on the left struggle with mental health. You know what I mean? And at certain times, different ones of us have it more under control than others, right? So, 7 years ago, I would not have been the one to handle the money. This year, maybe I could be the one to handle the money, right? It's just as simple as that. And maybe in a couple of years, I again won't be the one to handle the money. Who knows, right? We just got to be honest about it. I speak for the B. Thank you for following. What is my dude? Thank you for following. I appreciate y'all. Yeah, exactly. Exquisite morbid depression, anxiety, super prevalent among working people is true. Is very true. So anyway, I ain't trying to depress y'all with this shit. I'm just trying to say, think of issues in advance and be real about it and talk honestly and openly with your people. All right? So let's talk about different group structure examples, okay? We got consensus, which is where everybody sits around and decides things as a group. You know, many true communist societies of the past, like when we talk about, for example, different African groups, they ran things by consensus. Like people literally would get together and just figure things out together. And if one person had a problem with it, then they would discuss what the problem was. And so there was this real like a referendum kind of, but more like open referendum, right? More like a town hall. And also when it's consensus, that means everybody's got to agree. So what happens is you have people who learn to trust the group and to stop being so individualistic. You cannot have a consensus-based structure if everybody is super individualistic in the group. It won't work, right? You'll spend hours and hours going round and round about the same shit. So multi-level consensus is what the Zapatistas do. That's very cool. I didn't know that. But it makes sense, right? It just makes sense. I think I've also heard that the Zapatistas do have rotating leadership. So like they'll have people who will be the decider of the day, but that person is always beholden to the other people in the group, if I'm not mistaken. So I personally think rotating leadership is a fantastic way of doing things, because rotating leadership allows for everybody to gain the skills of leadership in the group, and it means that everybody's kind of everybody's going to get their voice heard, and everybody's going to take responsibility and take ownership of the direction of the group, you know? Oh yeah, to prevent burnout, absolutely, is very important. So you can talk about defined leadership with terms as well, like as if, you know, you have like a 6-month leadership role or a 1-year leadership role. There's a lot of different possibilities, right? Gio, if you bring it up at the next SRA meeting, don't mention me. Just bring it up like it's your own idea. There's some people don't like me in the SRA. So anyway, defined leadership without terms is another thing that that is very common, right? Especially if you have a group that is formed by one person. Thanks, Exquisite Vorbis. If you have leadership that is defined very like top down, you know, like one person's kind of like we call him the bleeding deacon in LA, so or not in AA. So what that means is like they just know everything, and they're like, oh, I wish everybody would listen to me because I got so much experience. You know, why are y'all running into the trap? You know, that's cool, Gio. That's real cool. So those kind of people can ruin a group. I'll tell you that right now. But if you go into a group and that kind of person is in charge, well, unless you're ready to try to overthrow them from the group to make the group more democratic, which I have tried to do in groups before, it ends up being very difficult and very rough, and everybody's unhappy. So my recommendation is to stay away from leadership without term limits. I think that if we ever want to talk about problems within existing socialist states or previous socialist states, I personally think that though term limits are not necessary, that there are other ways of doing things. To have a highly top-down leadership structure without term limits has its own set of problems. You know, it really does. So unless everybody is really adult about things, unless people are really willing to share power, then it's rough. Now let's talk about de facto leadership. If you have somebody highly charismatic, they can be a de facto leader, as in like people will just listen to them, and maybe they are not. Maybe you have a quote unquote consensus based based form, but they still have one person who kind of leads the conversation. So they say something and then a bunch of people around them say, I agree. You got to watch out for that shit, because a lot of people think that they're deciding for themselves, but actually there's a ringleader, right? Sometimes you'll have a group with 2 or 3 people who are highly motivated, enthusiastic people, and then you'll have a whole bunch of other people, and so you'll have these like cliques form, right? So yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. Let's say some one person commands all the information in the group. That can be a problem. Let's say some one person um, is already talked about controlling the money, but like handling the email lists, handling all the scheduling and such, the planning. That person has power, right? So if you don't codify that, if you don't talk about that, um, then I mean, straight up, they are your de facto leader. And the problem with de facto leadership, the big problem with de facto leadership is that you can't call them on it, right? You cannot call them on it. You can't say, "Hey, you're being the leader right now," or "Hey, I don't like this," because they can always be like, "Oh, I'm not trying to be the leader. Yeah, let's do it your way," right? But you're going to have to call them on it every single time, and otherwise they'll just be the leader, right? So either you'll look like a person who's causing problems constantly, or you'll just be going along with their de facto leadership. So it's frustrating. It's terrible. I highly recommend not having the de facto leadership program. So what does that mean? It either means you can say who the leader of the group is, and you can either have rotating or have a defined leader, or you can have a consensus group that is truly consensus that requires everyone to take very serious part in the decision-making process, right? Problem like what, Gio? Which one? So yeah, people sharing the responsibilities for like informational power, people sharing the responsibilities for decision making, people truly coming at things from a consensus basis is the only thing that can make consensus leadership work, as in like no leadership work, or else you will slip into de facto leadership. Yeah, Gio, it happens all the time. Happens all the damn time, for sure. All right. So I'm going to give you all a couple of examples of mass line work, all right? This should just kind of get your motor going, right? Think about it. Right now, in many places, food shortages, food uncertainty is the norm. Many people are not sure about their next meal. So, food drives for regular people, I ain't just talking about unhoused people. Sometimes in some cities, unhoused people get given a lot of food, and regular people don't get, like people who have houses. Shouldn't say regular people, that ain't right. People who have houses are not really given a lot of food, right? So we have to take care of our entire communities, or we have to consider that as communists, the entire community is our responsibility. Both um, the people who are uh, the most abused and pushed down and hurt in the society, but also the people who are acutely abused in society, right? People who are having problems in the short term, but are very serious problems. So that's why we don't, I mean, personally, I don't focus all of my work on the unhoused. I focus an amount of my work on the unhoused because that is a true crisis right now in the place that I live. But I focus some of my work on regular people. Damn, I don't know why that's really chauvinistic of me. I'm sorry. I don't mean regular people. I mean housed people. All right. I focus some of my work on the housed people as well. All right. So consider the issues going on in your neighborhood and help where you can. Shoe Bell, there's zero needle exchange in the whole state. Holy shit. Yeah, well, that's probably important wherever you are, because I know there's an opiate crisis going on all over. Shit, Kansas, yeah, there's absolutely an opiate crisis going on there. So, medical care for the unhoused literally ties into that, right? So, one of the things we're trying to do right now is get more medical care for the unhoused. You think so, Exquisitor? All right, I'll put this up on YouTube. So, eviction defense is very important, right? Because so many people who have never dealt with the true weight of the U.S. government coming down on them, are going to start dealing with it now. So if we communists can be there to help protect them, right? If we can be the ones to step in and say, no, we're not going to allow you to get evicted. We are going to support our neighbors and keep this neighborhood safe. That is so much more powerful than ever reading marks on the street corner or giving somebody books or fucking anything like that, right? To protect someone and help them keep their house is praxis, and it is the most intense form in many ways. It is the most intense form of servitude to your community that you can do. So I highly recommend getting involved with eviction defense in tenants unions. Cop watch patrols are also very important, right? So many places have dirty ass, terrible ass cops, right? So highly recommend cop watch. It's something that's a little bit more dangerous and sometimes can take a little bit longer to set up, but if that's the main problem in your neighborhood, then it can be really worth doing. Tempest says, thought about building food banks and COVID boxes, which will have free masks and hand sanitizers, etc. Yeah, that's what my group does. We give unhoused people around where I live hand sanitizer, sanitary packs and such, and food, shelf stable food though, right? So sometimes we cook, but yeah. A lot of times we just give that shelf stable food because that really, a lot of times they need shelf stable food more than anything else. Right on, Gio. That's awesome. Yeah, Exquisitor, I agree. The tenants unions that are actually blocking the courthouses and evictions is amazing. Personally, I like to focus on the illegal lockouts because the illegal lockouts are the ones that you can stop the easiest. Nobody's getting a felony charge for blocking a courthouse or whatever, right? If you have an illegal lockout going on, you can literally just wait the cops out and cause enough problems that, they'll go home because cops don't have to do it. They don't need to be there. They're doing it out of, the goodness of their heart, quote unquote, right? So you can literally get them to just go home if it's an illegal eviction. So I highly recommend getting to know the eviction laws in your state, the renters laws in your state, and figuring out when someone is being illegally evicted. It's a little work, but it really can make a difference. So another specific issue is I'm gonna put a link. Oh, did I close it out? No, I didn't. Yes, I did. I'm gonna put something in the chat real quick. This is very interesting to me. I highly recommend y'all look into this. This gives a story about in this person's city, they were having some problems with the buses, right? There was some tension on the buses. The bus drivers and their passengers were having conflict. So yeah, they actually did a mass line thing specifically on that issue. It was a very, very specific issue, but they were able to ask people. They were able to do that process I talked about before and actually help the community, right? So yeah, I agree, Jamie. And yes, Kush Dog, that's awesome that they are starting a police oversight committee. I think regular people being part of the police oversight committee, like regular people doing cop watch, is very good, very important. Supporting one thing that's not on this list that is important is supporting protests, right? Going out with water and such, and you can either take part in the protest or you can find different ways to support the protest. Show up as a communist, tell them you're a communist, and support the best way you can, right? That shit matters. All right. So finally, propaganda and outreach. So, oops. Shit. There we go. The point isn't just to have a clique of friends. And that's important, right? It's good to have a clique of friends. It can start as just a clique of friends, and you don't have to grow out of the phase of being just a clique of friends, right away within the first few months or even the first year, really, because you need to get to know each other, right? But having it grow from just being a clique of friends is important. The point of all of this, the point of the mass line, although it is always related to things that are just important to do for the community, things that are just right, the point is to be helping to move the world towards revolution, right? So the things that you do should help build towards that. So keeping that goal in mind, you have to be speaking at length to the people, right? If you're helping people, you should be talking to them, getting to know them, learning about them, right? Them learning about you, having an interchange, not just an interview. You know what I mean? You ain't going out there just asking them a bunch of questions trying to figure out their shit, right? You're sharing of yourself too. And I think that's important. Then you want to propagandize your work. You want to take pictures, not, especially if you're helping other people, you don't want to take pictures of them necessarily. You want to take pictures of yourself. I find that pictures of the bounty that you're about to give away can make a huge difference, right? Because that makes people want to give you money, makes people want to get involved, makes people feel like something's really going on. You know what I mean? And then you can spread propaganda based on what's effective in your area, right? So when you get a mass of people getting together, right? When your group grows from something small to something a little bigger, well, I mean, shit really starts to matter, right? So you can start making real propaganda for your area. You can start, and part of that stems from just propagandizing the people who come to help you, right? Making sure that they know like the truth about communism, that they know why you're doing this. Because propaganda can just be a conversation, right? Propaganda is outreach. It's outreach in visual form, outreach in verbal form, outreach in service, right? Propaganda can be many, many different things. So don't think that it's just like a poster pasted up on the wall. It can literally just be talking one-on-one to a friend. So yeah, consider things from the point of view of I am doing this for a purpose. The purpose is two layers. One, to just help because it's the right thing to do. But two, to help grow socialism because it is also the right thing to do. All right? So if both of these things are the right thing to do, it's okay to do them at the same time, right? But just make sure that you're not only following one goal and letting the other one fall by the wayside. All right? So that's all I got for today. If y'all think this is worth putting up on YouTube, I'll put it up on YouTube. But I really appreciate y'all coming by. Thank you, Kiwi. Thank you, Grim. I'm glad you appreciate me mentioning that in particular. So yeah, it was a lot of fun talking to y'all. I really appreciate chat today. Really cool. Yeah, and I will see y'all next time. Almost all, Exquisitor. Yeah, I'll see y'all next time. I'm glad it was informative. Oh shit, raid. That's right. We got a raid. Hold on. Wait. Who should we raid? Who should we raid? Where y'all all go? All right. Okay, let me see. Raid. No. Is it raid? Raid. Comic-Con. Nope. Hold up. Raid. The Comic-Con? Damn, what's his username? What the fuck? Somebody post his username in chat. Is it not Comic-Con? Doodle-doo. All right, we're rated. We're going to the Comic-Con. All right, we about to have 30-something people going. That's fantastic. All right, see you, Tempest. Thank you for coming. BBDH is a good guy. I appreciate it. Yeah, he's an anarchist dude. So, all right, let's do it. Let's raid. Raiding with a party of 32. Comrades, assemble.